My name is Chris Bogue. I will be your host today, and my co-host this week is Brian Montoya. Brian, hello.
Hi, everyone. My name is Brian Montoya. I'm the head of video content over here at SendSpark and host of I'm Not Selling You Anything. It's a podcast where I interview interesting people in tech and in my life. Today's episode is all about how to stop saying.
That's right. We are not going to say at all, not a single time this episode, right, Brian?
That's the challenge, and hopefully, and the idea is we have people watching us to keep us honest.
Yeah, so once again, this is Video Selling Live. This is a show all about how to do video for sales effectively. Video Selling Live is brought to you by SendSpark. SendSpark is the way that teams scale video for sales. SendSpark is the program that Brian and I use. If anybody at home wants to get started selling on video, you can go ahead and scan this QR code up there, and you can get SendSpark for free. But if you don't use SendSpark, that's okay too. If you use a different program from SendSpark, maybe you don't even have a program that you use. Maybe you're just getting started doing video for sales and all you have is a phone. That's okay. This episode is for you. So hello to everybody out there watching right now. If you are watching this, go ahead and leave us a comment. That's the only way we know that you're here is if you jump in. So if you are watching this show live today, go ahead, comment letting us know where you're watching this from, or let us know what's the vocalized pause that you say the most, because today's episode is called Stop Saying It's all about vocalized pauses, why we use vocalized pauses, how we can stop using vocalized pauses, and I'm very excited to get into that. So without further ado, I will just introduce myself. My name is Chris Bogue. I am your host. I am a coach. I coach people to make video that is mercifully short, that drives sales meetings, that drives revenue into their company. You can find me at chrisbogue.io. And if you would like to chat with me, you can go ahead and scan this QR code. I'm happy to talk about individual coaching for you or team coaching to help your team make mercifully short video content that drives revenue. So without further ado, Brian, are you ready for this week's video breakdown?
I'm really ready for it. Yep.
All right, let's get this started. Here we go. Okay, so we have a little bit of an interesting switch for today. We're going to be doing this a little bit different. So for the past few weeks, we have watched a user-submitted breakdown. So real sellers have been sending us videos that we've been providing feedback on. But this week I decided to switch it up. So Brian, did you read the script, or did I already spoil for you what this is?
I have not read the script. It has not been spoiled. It is the bananas fresh.
Okay, so everybody, what we're going to be breaking down this week is a real video that was sent to me. So this is from a seller named Jaden. Jaden sent me a LinkedIn message containing a video trying to get a business meeting with me, and I've not responded to him yet. So Jaden, if you are out there watching, thank you very much. We're going to give you some feedback here. Maybe you can still win that video. But let's all take a look at what Jaden sent me, and then Brian and I are going to break down what he did well and maybe what he could have improved in order to better get a meeting. So let's take a look at this, and let me know if you can't hear the sound.
Hey, thanks for connecting with me on LinkedIn. My name is Jaden Maharaj, and I help coaches scale steadily by setting up performance-based marketing campaigns to help them get at least 100 scheduled appointments per month every single month. And I know that's a really big claim, but I can show you all the numbers behind it. And I wanted to reach out to you and make this video for you because I was taking a look at your profile and I noticed a couple of things, a couple opportunities that I think could really help you scale. So I'm not sure if you're currently looking for clients or if you're in maintenance mode or you're at capacity, but if you're looking for some help, if you're open to some help, I'd love to hop on a Zoom call with you where I can share some insights, share some ideas that I had about how we can help get you at least 100 scheduled appointments every single month. And at the worst case scenario, we can just make a connection and I can show you what other people in your space are doing to get hundreds of appointments every single month. We have some businesses that are getting 300, 400, 500 or even more appointments scheduled. So I went ahead and put my calendar down below. No pressure at all if you want to chat or not. Either way, it's great to connect with you, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Take care.
Okay. So that was this week's video. Everybody, I see we've got some great activity there in the comments. Bryce, Jonathan, Bruce, Dallas, Wendy, Dantius, hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, Tor. We've got some great dialogue going here. Keep it going. But Brian, that was a real sales video with somebody who tried to set a meeting with me. I've not gotten him back to him yet. What were your thoughts and reactions to Jaden's video there?
First off, exuded confidence. I think of these three things. It's clear. He was very clear. I didn't have to go, what did he say? It was confident, knew what he wanted to say, and he was concise. I wasn't there for more than a minute. How long was that video? Like, I watched the whole thing and didn't roll my eyes. So I thought he did a really good job there. And I'm almost positive he didn't say once. So those are my positives on that one.
Excellent. Yeah. The things that he did well. So it was a minute 08. Pretty good. I always like to try to get it down to less than 1 minute if possible.
Agree.
Something about that, I just feel like when it's shorter than a minute, it's an easier time commitment for the prospect. The other thing I will say that Jaden did very well, and again, Jaden, if you're watching this, DM me. We will hook you up with a fantastic prize. But he also did a good job at multi-threading. So not only did he send me this LinkedIn message, he did email me shortly afterwards to try to follow up and stay on my radar, which is very important in sales. The follow-up is just as, if not more important than the original video. Here's the issue that I had with that video. So I didn't really feel like he was actually speaking directly to me. He was scrolling through my page. He was actually showing me a lot of old jobs that I had. He was scrolling through jobs that I had 10 to 13 years ago.
Right.
And whenever I am selling to somebody on video, I'm trying to get into their mindset of like, what is on their mind right now? What is their job responsibility? What is the meeting that they had with their manager yesterday? What are they looking at ahead of the week on their calendar? What's keeping them up at night? And how can I show up as something relevant to that? So he was showing my website, but at the same time, he wasn't showing me anything that I've done recently. He wasn't speaking specifically to any of the challenges I have on my plate right now. He was showing me a lot of old roles.
Yeah.
That in many cases aren't relevant to me either. The other thing I would say is be careful with your value add. So he was promising to get me at least 100 meetings per month and talking about some people he's helped potentially get 200 or 300 meetings a month for. And anybody who's watching at home, I am a solopreneur. I run my own business. Back when I was an account executive, if I was doing 5 meetings with prospects a day, that would be the absolute maximum that I would be doing. And frankly, that's too much. 5 meetings a day is 115 meetings per month.
I agree. It's almost like it would be too much, right? If he knew you were a solo entrepreneur, he would say, I could get you a more manageable number. He would have said a more manageable number, right? Like, I could probably get you 20 more qualified meetings, 30 more qualified meetings, in which case you'd say, it sounds like he's paying more attention to me. Is that kind of what you're getting at, Chris?
Yeah, or even speaking to some of the difficulties that a solopreneur has. He didn't mention anything about me being a coach or a consultant or a trainer, but even just that subtle wording of saying, I work with solopreneurs. I've worked with a lot of trainers who rely on themselves to get coaching clients.
Yeah.
Here's the trend I've noticed with that. My fear is if somebody booked me 300 sales meetings, my fear would that most of them would not be qualified.
You wouldn't get either qualified or you wouldn't get to them. Let's say they were 300 qualified, right? What's worse than not getting to a meeting is not getting to a qualified one.
Right. So do I trust someone to book me 300 qualified meetings if somebody gives me 300 meetings and they're not even saying anything specific about me, I have no reason to believe that that would be more effective than, say, me setting 20 meetings
Right.
from myself, because I know what my business needs. I know the type of client I'm looking for. Even when I was a professional salesperson and selling was my only job, most of my sales jobs only required me to set usually 1.5 or 2.5 meetings per day. And in a situation like that, if I get 3 meetings in a day, now I'm trending above my target for the week. If I only set 1, I know I have to set 2 the next day. Just 100 plus meetings just sounds like a lot.
I'd say also on the actual video itself, I want to just kind of change into this really quickly, is I think sending a video of how he is going to be doing this for your business would be a lot more interesting for Chris Bogue receiving it, and then follow that up with interest. Is this interesting to you? Instead of saying, let me get 30 minutes of your time, even though it seems like I know nothing about your business. So I think him adding more of how it's done instead of kind of the general, I can help folks like you get 200 to 300 more, in many cases 400 to 5, in some cases 400, 500. I think he could have just been a little bit less general and showed you specifically how it's done by looking and knowing those things that you just mentioned, Chris, that he could have done better. You send a video of how that's done, and then interest instead of, here's my calendar, book 30 minutes on my calendar. How many times could that actually work? I've never done that in a video that comes my way.
So I do ask for calendar meetings. I don't think that's unreasonable. I would say my advice to Jaden here would be, in improv, I call these gifts. Right? A gift is anything that the other person says or does that you can play off of. The other person's words are a gift. What they're doing with their physicality is a gift. The situation you're in is a gift. Their reactions are a gift. My LinkedIn profile is full of gifts. I have tons of content out there. I clearly put a lot of work in there. If he had even pointed to a couple things in my profile and said, look, you have a lot of great content here. I can tell you spent a lot of time building partnerships. I can tell you spent a lot of time productizing your knowledge. I want to have a conversation with you about how we can take what you've already built and automate that into a way to generate additional meetings every week.
Yeah.
Now you'd be talking my language. Now I would say, oh, wow, he noticed the things I've already done. He understands the work that I've already put into business. And this guy seems like he has a plan to help me take what I've already done and get more out of it. That would help set him up for a meeting. Whereas when someone tells me, I work with people just like you, I get them 300 meetings a month, I say, well, it doesn't really sound like he knows people like me because I don't really need that many meetings. So I do this not because I want to criticize Jaden. I do think he did a lot of wonderful things here, including getting on camera in the first place, personalizing it with my website, being professional and confident on camera, and following up. But sales is a difficult game. It is hard to show up as something relevant and create enough curiosity to actually book that meeting. So that's why we did this breakdown here. So
you can always send that follow-up too to get them. Now you know exactly what you want to hear.
Yeah, Jaden, if you want to send a follow-up meeting, if you watch this and you want to just take the notes down that we set and just send another one that's just a little bit more targeted towards me specifically, you might still get that meeting.
Jonathan Jensen's got us on an
Jonathan, you are going to be getting us on tons of today, because even the best speakers, we're always out there and we're always going to make mistakes. Even the people who do it the best still usually get 100 plus vocalized pauses in on what they're saying. So with that being said, that actually sounds like this is a great time to transition to our next topic. So Brian, are you ready to do lesson time?
I am, but hold on. Kate Beckinsale, you are so cute, Brian. Awesome. Thank you, Kate. Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay, let's go ahead and let's do this week's lesson time. All right, so this week's lesson time is all about saying, or rather not saying, we've got some really kind of extreme opinions in here. Matthew is very upset. He hates the word like. He wants to cattle prod speakers who say this.
It's like the guy in Casino. Matthew, that's crazy.
It's exactly what it's like, Brian. So we know vocalized pauses are bad. Vocalized pauses are anything that fills space unnecessarily. Common vocalized pauses include the word the word like, so, is my big one. I say 50 times every interview because I'm a Midwesterner. So, Brian, this is why I brought you on today's episode. Not only are you a video content creator for SenseSpark, but you are also a podcaster. So, why don't we start talking a little bit about vocalized pauses? Why do you think they're so common, and why do they hurt us on video and in audio interviews?
I think that, wow, that was the So I believe that vocalized pauses, I used to do it a lot more. And I would have usually filled that with an just now, right? So you just take a second to kind of bring your thoughts together. So in podcasting, you can go back and delete them, right? You have that. But then when you go back and hear yourself not say the it sort of propels you into really, really doing it. So I think they help in podcasting or in having conversations with people. When you want to drop an you take a pause. And to me, it's come off as, because I do I do lots of content where I shoot sort of things and sketch. It comes off like a dramatic pause. And when it's dramatic, it brings a little bit more to the conversation. Maybe not so much mystery, but an anticipation. It also changes the cadence and the way the conversation sounds. If you say a lot of it sounds kind of like, well, you sort of always keep hearing But if you drop a pause and then maybe raise your voice a little bit or lower voice a little bit, I just think it helps in keeping the person that you're speaking to more engaged.
Yeah, well, I want to pull up this comment here from Dallas because I'm going to respectfully disagree. Dallas says, as long as they're not overused, the filler words bring a lot of humanity to the presenter. I may be in the minority, but I appreciate them. Dallas, I used to feel the same way as you. And the big difference was I started hosting a podcast and I started having to listen to myself.
Yep.
And I realized I was saying vocalized pauses way more than I intended to. And this happens too with the video prospecting. Sometimes it's not even or like. I've watched prospecting videos where the seller says thank you 4 times in one video, or they say sorry 4 times in one video.
That's a big no-no for me, is the sorries, the overly thanking. That could be sort of like an is what you're saying, right, Chris? It could just be a nervous, maybe a tick or just a response from having that conversation.
Yeah, my thought is always, do you have control over your own speech? Normally, if I'm talking to that person who said thank you 4 times in one video, and I ask them, what would you rather do? Would you rather said thank you once? Or would you rather have said thank you 4 times? They almost always choose to say it once because that's all you need. You've said it once, you've gotten the point across. The reason why we're focused on vocalized pauses today is oftentimes we don't realize how much we are saying them. And if we did, we would choose to say them less. And this goes for video prospecting, but this also goes for podcasting. So if anybody out there is in the audience, if you are a podcast host yourself, or if you're somebody who guests on podcasts, if you are saying constant vocalized pauses, if there are and uhs and likes between everything you say, that's actually going to make it really hard for your editor to make it sound like a coherent conversation. And programs like Descript, there's a lot of programs for podcasts where they will automatically remove those and uhs and likes using artificial intelligence. But oftentimes those can come off as sounding a little disjointed, a little odd, a little unnatural, because we've made and like so much a part of our speech that when we remove it, it sounds strange. And going back to Dallas's point, I find that people who don't have to spend a lot of time listening to themselves say, oh, I won't sound authentic if I remove the vocalized pauses. I won't sound natural anymore. But actually, you can just take a beat. And on a podcast, that's so easy for an editor to chop out. It's so much
The
easier
beat.
for them to
Yep.
cut down
Huge.
silence than it is for them to have to cut out these little blips and half words and ums and uhs and stutters.
And specifically, I started off when everyone starts off a podcast, it's their first time doing it. So it was my first time doing it. I didn't know about Descript, and I would listen to my 25-minute podcast with someone, and I'd catch myself with the ums and the likes, and it made me feel less professional about what I was doing. So when I intentionally began to remove them, I began to feel like I was doing something a little bit better and more professional. And it honestly it propelled me, it encouraged me to keep going and becoming a little bit better every time. So working on those vocalized pauses, I think, is one of those 1% things that you can do every day. You can do it when you're having a conversation on the phone with your grandmother, or when you're on a Zoom call with your boss or your team, or a conversation with anyone. You could work on less.
Yeah, and there's a great point here I saw in the comments. So Matt Pruitt talks about dynamic silence.
Yeah,
Great for
that's
shutting
great.
up during cold calls, great for speaking better on video and on pods. One of the things that people always tell me is that they feel awkward. They feel that awkward silences, they're avoiding awkward silences. I
You
actually
gotta
saw
lean into it. You gotta lean into it.
well, it's only awkward if you make it awkward. If you make it
Mhm.
intentional, it comes off as strength. And I saw a very interesting point brought up. So I made a couple posts this past week about vocalized pauses. I was posting content on LinkedIn, and someone pointed out to me that oftentimes we're trying to convey meaning through our vocalized pauses. And they pointed to a study specifically that says women tend to get interrupted by men more than men get interrupted by women. And oftentimes, what people are doing, especially women with their vocalized pauses, is they're saying, please don't interrupt me. They need a minute to think of the next thing that they're going to say. And they know some loudmouth is going to jump in
Oh,
on
I
them the second
see.
they stop talking. So they go, to let you know, please give me some space to
Chill. Yeah,
finish my
yeah. Just
thought.
hold off. Right.
So to
Mm.
that, I say, one, if you're a big loudmouth, like maybe me and Brian are, it is good to be mindful when you're talking to someone, especially when you're interviewing them, and give them that space and let them know, hey, you can go ahead and finish your thoughts. I'm not going to be interrupting you. But if you are a shy person, if you are a person who gets cut off and interrupted frequently, I would challenge you to remember that those vocalized pauses, that's a defensive measure.
Yeah.
Even
Sorry, Matt made a comment here, Chris,
Mhm.
about closing statements with right. Sort of to signify that you're done. I like saying, "That's my piece" or "That's my part." So that's sort of how I close my own ones. But right, I feel like is a good one too.
Exactly. Or it's funny. I have a podcast that I host, and I had a woman on there who I noticed this exact thing with her, where she would stop talking, but she wouldn't finish the thought. She would just stop talking, and I could see her physically prepare herself for me to interrupt her. And as the host, I just sat there for a moment, and I would just say, "Go on," and then she would finish the thought.
Right,
But
like the permission in a way.
exactly. We get so used to, especially if you're a person who's used to being talked over, who's used to being interrupted, who's not being used to letting your thoughts finish. That just becomes the way you speak. You start using these vocalized pauses to protect yourself. And to anybody who feels that way, I would say on video, there is no one to interrupt you. You
That's a
have
great point.
100% chance, you have 100% control over your speech, you have 100% control over your pace. Being able to take that confident pause and take a moment to deliberately stop, that is powerful. And you can create space in your message where you can allow the viewer to sit there and react to you in real time and think. And I would say if anybody feels that it's unnatural, it's really not. And we're gonna get to our challenge this week because this is associated here. What is this? I want to look at Bruce's quote one more time, just because Remember George Will's responsibility? You should let me finish my sentences. I am an expert on where they were going. Exactly. If you're the type of person who talks and
That's
talks.
such a good one.
Yeah. Allow people to finish their thoughts sometime. You might notice the way they speak changes, but we could talk about this forever. Brian, we're getting to the end of our program here. I hear you have a challenge for the audience this week. Is that true?
It is true. And this week's challenge is called... All right, I got excited and I got ahead of myself. This is my first time doing it. Okay, yes. This week's challenge is called Take a Moment. I challenge everyone in the audience to create a video this week and make sure you include at least one intentional pause.
Right. This is a simple one. So everybody at home, even if you're sitting there naysaying, even if you think, no, I love my vocalized pauses, they make me who I am, that's how I talk. Challenge yourself this week when you make a prospecting video. Choose a moment where you intentionally pause. You create space in your own words to emphasize your message. So Brian, I'm going to put you on the spot here. Do you have a favorite pause? Can you think of a line where you've ever delivered a dramatic pause?
Yeah. So I used to get these sales trainers that come and do executive briefings for everyone to teach you how to be better at this, and that. And one of them came in and was talking about be more like John Rockefeller. And I'm sitting there thinking like, John Rockefeller? I get up and I go, excuse me, isn't that guy dead?
Yes, Brian, be more like that.
So you can send a joke as well, is what I'm saying. Sorry, I'm working on my Kill Tony for tonight.
Nice. I am doing a new round of sales prospecting, and I'm calling it the Q4 Video Blitz.
Ooh, football related. This is nice. Good contextual.
Thinking about football. So I'm a coach. I coach people to do the video thing. And that's what I'm going to be dropping to people. I'm going to start with talking about them. I'm going to say their name. I'm going to notice something about them. I'm going to notice that their sales team is using video. And then I'm going to say if they've given any thought to doing a video blitz for Q4. I asked this because we still have plenty of time.
Ooh.
So I'm going to set that up. I'm going to drop the phrase Q4 video blitz. I'm going to let them think about how cool that is. And then I'm going to explain to them that there is still plenty of time. We still have some of Q3 left, and we've got Q4 left to finish the year strong. If sales teams want to get strategic out there, there is still plenty of time to hit your pipeline with just a whole big mess of short, personalized, customized videos. And then you still have time to follow up with a thoughtful strategy to make sure you create a human interaction with everybody in your pipeline, get them on the calendar, and exceed your revenue goals before the end of the year. So that's where I'm going to be putting my pause in there. We want to hear from you at home. So everybody at home, I challenge you, if you are in sales, go out there, be intentional with your pauses this week. And if you haven't gotten started with video yet, Brian and I have a program for you.
Try SendSpark. It's free. #1 video prospecting tool for anyone that wants to get in front of anyone, have a meeting and start a meaningful conversations, B2B, B2C, whatever you want.
Yeah. At the end of the day, sales is still a bit of a volume game. You've got to get out there. You've got to talk to a lot of people all the time. SendSpark is just the absolute easiest way to do that. If you are managing a team, they've got easy customization tools to make sure you can make it specific to the companies you're going after. You can customize your thumbnails. You can create templates for your team. The whole idea is take the thinking out of the process. Make sure you are getting it in front of people with a short, clear, personalized message. And this one's going to have a pause in it. So go ahead, scan the QR code. And as always, if you want to meet me, if you want to talk about individual coaching for yourself, I do one-on-one coaching. I also do training and team coaching for sales and also content marketing. You can go ahead and scan this QR code if you want to talk to me. Brian, I don't have a QR code for you. I'm sorry. But what's the name of your podcast again for anybody who does want to check it out?
Podcast is called I'm Not Selling You Anything, and you could just type in Brian Montoya on LinkedIn. You won't learn much.
Great. What an excellent advertisement for that. So thank you very much, everybody. Go forth, sell on video. Make sure if you do want to be part of next week's episode, go ahead. You can DM your video to me. You can send it to me on LinkedIn. You can also email your video to videosellinglive@senspark.com. Feel free to send your intentional pause to us. And if we select you for next time's video breakdown, we do these every 2 weeks, you could win a fabulous prize. So that's our episode for today. Say bye, everybody.